There we go. Good morning. All right, guys, let's get started. We have a lot to talk about. A medium lot to talk about. So let's just get down to it. I want to hear you guys' comments. I want to hear everybody's questions. I want to hear what you guys are thinking about, looking at trading, and so on. I personally feel like this week was a little bit of a tricky week. Anybody share that sentiment with me at all? Anybody at all? Or did everybody have a fantastic week? And I was the one that just thought, where are all the great setups? There were some good setups, and there was a few of them. But I just felt like today or this week was a lot of chop. We had a very interesting kind of wild breakout on like Friday-ish, right? So if we go, let's just take for example, let's take for example the euro dollar here. So euro dollar kind of hopping around, right? And we ended up with this nice little. So here's our there's the 11th. So that was kind of the big breakout, right? So we have this big breakout, and it's on the 12th. So this is Friday. Breaks through all of our resistance. Of course, this is a big, strong level, 120.80 area. We plow through it, and it just goes straight up, right? And then it just kind of, and that all happens in basically the same day, give or take. So breaks out on Friday, kind of Sunday, Monday, and then the euro dollar just spends the whole week doing this. And that wasn't the most uncommon of movements. Aussie dollar, same thing on the 12th. It broke that high, spends the whole week, little trickle higher, kind of coming back down. A lot of pairs we were watching. Dollar index, same thing. Euro breaks out, right? We have this big euro breakout here, or excuse me, this big dollar move here, and makes that trickle down, and then it just spends. There's the 15th, which is Monday, and it just goes like this. It's a 4-hour chart, by the way. So there's our whole week of dollar movement. So the dollar was totally directionless this week. There was no direction on the dollar. We're definitely looking at some of these dollar movements, and they were difficult. Good grief, there was nothing really good to trade on these dollar movements. They were kind of tough. Hey Gerhard, very excelente to see you, my friend. Nice to see you. Hey Chris, welcome. So this dollar movement this week was just brutality, just crazy, and we were definitely looking at a lot of dollar pairs going into last week, going into the weekend last week, and we had that big breakout, and remember, we didn't really have any exposure. We had a little exposure on the Aussie dollar, which I think, I ended up taking a little loss on that Aussie dollar, and I know several other people did as well. Just kind of, it didn't really go so far against us, and it kind of didn't really just do anything. It just really didn't do anything. Um, and so, we were watching a lot of dollar pairs, and they just kind of did nothing. They just really did a whole bunch of nothing. So dollar pairs were pretty stagnant last week. We ended up getting some yen movement this week. Definitely, some pairs more than others. You can see euro yen spent the whole week. Same thing, totally sideways. There's our big euro yen movement. Aussie yen did end up giving us a bit of a reaction at this double top here. So again, just kind of some chop. So I'm not trying to poo-poo the market here, but man, I mean, this week was just that was this week. Well, let's see, let's go a little bit ahead. Let's see, where am I? I'm zoomed out a little bit. There we go. So there's 12th, 15th. So New Zealand yen, chop. There were little movements here. Some little stuff to look for. Dollar yen. We talked a little bit about. Here was a trade that I mentioned yesterday, which was if that little reversal holds, grab some pips on the way up, and it gave us some pips on the way up. It did make a little bit of a 20 pip move, and then it's just kind of just chop. Just choppity chop, chop, chop. Gold at least. I mean, again, it didn't really do that much this week either, but it did what we needed it to do, which was we needed that retest of 13.25, 24. excuse me, 24, 25, and then we talked about gold being bearish below that area, which it never got below. But at least that was enough for any of the gold shorts that were in there. That's enough to get out with some profit, and a lot of people did, and it sounded like that went well. So it just turned out to be a week of tough moves. Just a week of tough moves. Now, given the week before this week, so last week and the week before that, and I think the week before that, we just had great moves on top of great moves on top of great moves, and we've really had some really excellent behaving markets. So you got to have a bad week from time to time where just kind of nothing sets up. And that was how this week was for me. I just ended up not really trading much. Nothing really set up too much this week, and gave too many great opportunities to trade. Now let's look at a couple of details here. We did okay. I'm curious. Um, Trying to think here. It feels like it was this week. We did have a nice little 15-minute trade. I mean, if I'm racking my brain here, I think it was this week, wasn't it? Was that this week? I think I sent out a 15-minute trade alert. Feels like I did. Feels like it was this guy right here. What's that? 16th. Okay, so that was this week. Anybody get in on the Euro CAD for a short? This one was a little bit early, but I did send out the alert and kind of the area to trade it down to, and kind of the entry and so on. We had a nice little 15-minute trade on the EuroCAD. There was kind of this little 50 pip run right here, broke, kind of consolidated, and then made this. It actually moved about 100 pips, but it had kind of a minimum 50 pip movement. We had 3 consecutive missed daily pivots and a pretty high bar count. Started to break around 350, 360, 370 area, and then made a nice little run into the moving average, and then ultimately into our target, which was the third missed or third of the missed 3 pivots there. So ended up working out pretty well. Okay, missed the exit. All right, all right. Yeah, the exit was just right there, right at that third pivot. There was a couple of chances, it kind of made its way down, and it did, pull back a lot, and it came back down, and then we had all this CAD and crazy news over here. But hopefully some of you guys got in. Mel got into that. Hopefully a few others got into the Euro CAD. It was a nice mover. It was a nice mover. Good little 15-minute setup, and worked out exactly like we like our 15-minute trades to work out, which is just break, move, go, whammo. So that was a nice little trade, and we had a couple of goodies here and there between EuroCAD and grabbing a couple of breakouts on some of these others, but again, yeah, it was just a tough week. I feel after this week, I feel mentally trading exhausted. Like what am I gonna like? I need to take my brain needs to take a nap. And kind of catch up from that. But I think there were some decent, if you're a really short-term trader, I think there were some decent short-term trades. 5 and 15-minute charts kind of lined up fairly well this week. But our typical kind of 60-minute, 1-hour chart layouts just didn't confirm, and the ones that did confirm moved very little and stopped and became choppy, and so yeah, it was just kind of a wild week like that. But but there's always good stuff that comes from that. So here's what I'm curious about, and here's what I'm interested in seeing happen going into next week, and some things that I want to see. Look at the dollar index right here. So let's talk about the euro dollar and the dollar index for just a moment. So dollar index had a couple of levels. I was looking at one down here, and it kind of started the week off, pretty beat up, and it pulled back, hit our level, and then it's just kind of doing this, right? It's kind of going like that, and like that, and like that. And so we've got all this kind of retesting of that 9, basically almost the 90 level. I think our lowest point was 90.12. So just about that 90 level, 90.12, 90.20, right in that general area. It's just kind of bounce, 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 bounce. And in that zone of this constant bouncing, It doesn't seem to want to break lower. Now, it probably will. It probably will break lower. I don't think our dollar bearishness is done by any means, but what we're curious about is some of these kind of pullbacks, right? We have some very clear, very excellent, must be traded levels on dollar index. So this guy up here, 91.20, here we are at 90.54. 91.20 is a must trade to. Weekly pivot here, 91.50, that's a must. Another great level up here, 91.70, that's a must. We've got another couple of levels. I didn't even mark our um, daily pivot here, which is worth watching, and another really important level up here, which is 92.40. So I'm still very interested in what the good old dollar index is going to do, and see if see if we're going to get a bigger, better push up into that area. Now, what is that going to mean for the direction of all these pairs? I think this is kind of the pullback we're looking for on some of these dollar pairs, like the Aussie dollar, the Euro dollar, New Zealand dollar, pound dollar, and so on. This is going to kind of propel that movement. So this is what I'm looking for going into next week. I, I love this kind of a setup for a couple of reasons, because dollar index is sitting right here. If it breaks below this 90, 20-ish area, then we know the dollar slide is continuing, and it could very likely continue with no pullback. But I just have a feeling that this is how patterns go, right? Hold, 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 hold. All right, here we go. Time for that movement up. So I think this is what we want to see for getting that Aussie dollar back down, getting that Euro dollar back down for a possible buy territory, getting some of these other pairs kind of headed in the right direction. I think we're going to get that big push on the dollar index this coming week. Now the question again is how long term, how big is this going to be? This is a pretty strong downtrend. We've got some highs back here of I'm on the daily chart on the dollar index here. This is a high of December of 2016. December 2016, dollar index was at 103, 50, 60 area, and it's just gone boom, 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 and this massive slide right here with virtually no pullback, kind of from March, April, just straight down. Big pullback here, September to November high, and then we slide again. There's more room for this to head lower. There's definitely more room for it to head lower, but I think we're starting to see some areas where we're going to get this thing kind of solidifying and maybe ready for a little bit of a strength run. This is a pretty big move. I find that oftentimes trends last about a year in the currency markets. Now, this isn't, this is a very general statement, and it doesn't count on everything, and so on. We've seen yen pairs go for like 11 years in one direction with 0 pips of retracement, but I find that oftentimes these big movements go about a year. Dollar index is about a year of just just push, 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 and I'm getting very interested. There's no major levels here, but oftentimes we don't need any major levels for this dollar index to really start to kind of go the other direction. Now, I'll be watching these highs over here and so on. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on a few of these levels, and that takes us down a little bit lower. And I won't be surprised at all to see the dollar index head a little bit lower. I definitely don't think it's done yet. So here's a nice little level at 80, 88, 50, 60. Another 200 pips could definitely happen on this dollar index. But from there, I'm going to get very curious about getting pretty darn long US dollar. And I think there's going to be some good opportunities to get long US dollar from there. We've kind of suffered through this interesting dollar weakness that has kind of just gone on and on and on. And I think I'm getting pretty interested in getting long US dollar. Now, that's our dollar index chart. So what about something like the euro dollar? How are we going to trade euro dollar, and where's this thing headed? Now, I mentioned this week and going into last week and so on, that I kind of want this little scale-in zone here. So I think that initial push that I just showed, the smaller one on this dollar index, kind of making its way up into these upper levels right here, like last week's pivot, and so on, kind of getting up into there, is going to give us, at the very least, a big push down into this 120 80, 120, 100 zone, and even into 119, 50, 60, into kind of this area. And I'm very interested in buying. Now, this isn't like a pending order buy. This is a watch and see if this thing does what it should do buy, and then kind of, take it from there type of a thing. So for kind of that final push on dollar index into that 88.50. Keep in mind we're just a hair above that 90 level, so we're looking for maybe 200-ish pips lower on the dollar index, and I think that could be that initial push higher on dollar index gets euro dollar down here. We buy into it. Dollar index continues breaking lower into that 88.50. Euro dollar runs back up, tests these highs, and even into, our high here on euro dollar is about 123.50. Watch for 12500. 12500 is probably a safe zone to kind of be looking for. Gets us into some of this big consolidation over here, but we don't really have any amazing levels. We have these guys lurking over here around 127.50. Totally not out of the question. 127.50, definitely some reaction there, but I don't know. I don't know if honestly, at this point, I don't know if I see euro dollar heading that high. I could very much, I'm just very cautious about being very long-term bearish euro dollar, or excuse me, bearish US dollar and long-term bullish euro dollar. Now, this could turn into a big kind of gnarly move of this and, a head and shoulders at that level. Would not be surprised to see something like that. But that's all big, really big picture stuff. I think for the moment, pulling back, buying into that 120.50, 120.80-ish area, trading this up into the mid 120s again, and kind of calling it good from there for euro dollar until we get some other stuff is kind of what I'll be looking for. What do you guys think? How's everyone feel? You guys feel like do we have some dollar bulls in here? Do we have some dollar bears in here? Euro bears, Euro bulls. What do we got? I kind of like that. I like that whole setup, and I think there's a really good scenario for that to happen. The currencies there's so much news going on in every direction that the safe bet is to just stay very technical on these setups. Just stay technical. Stay technical. And I think we should be good. Creeping over here to the Aussie dollar and so on. Yeah, exactly, Mel. Just stay technical. Stay technical here. Aussie dollar is the most ridiculously overbought of them all. This is a great channel, by the way. Really, really great channel. The Aussie dollar's in. This thing is tradable to death. It's coming off these highs. We have such ridiculous targets down here. We've got this pivot cluster right here. So we've got that. We've got weekly pivot, weekly pivot, weekly pivot, weekly pivot, monthly pivot, daily pivot. Fantastic levels down here. I'm going to go ahead and call the Aussie dollar a pretty big crash / correction coming very soon. So I feel pretty good about just letting this crazy uptrend sputter out a little bit, and then just start shorting the heck out of the Aussie dollar. I think this is a great opportunity. Let's not get into it too soon. We don't want to be getting into this thing too soon and taking too many moves down in that direction. So we've got to kind of be careful for that. But we are definitely looking for some good moves down in here, and and a nice little sell-off. So I'd say the Aussie dollar is probably one of my favorites for a big sell-off, for a big move down. But it's going to take some patience, and it's going to have to get there. It's going to have to get there. All right, pound Aussie bear. I like that. Pound Aussie. That looks like that's got some potential. We'll have a peek at that chart in just a second. Yeah. Anybody excited about an Aussie dollar sell-off? Because I feel like this has some of the biggest potential. Now, what we've tried to do is make a little bit of a move on this Aussie dollar, with some of these shorts and some of these sell trades that we've talked about a couple of times, and they've been difficult. but I think that they're going to start to behave for us. So let's hang in there. Hang on 2 seconds for me, guys. 2 seconds. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of my Aussie dollar picture, and I'm pretty excited about getting a little piece of that action. So hopefully you guys are with me on that and ready to do a little bit of Aussie dollar selling. So okay, so Aussie dollar. How's my audio? Is my audio still coming through? Okay, you guys hear me all right? Didn't get a little didn't get too spotty, did it, by any chance? Like I said, we're traveling a little bit this week, and the internet kind of tricky, kind of tricky. Okay. All right, guys. So Aussie dollar, loving that. That's a big one. Some of these yen pairs, yen pairs are kind of starting to look interesting, but only just, only just. I'm kind of keeping my eye on some of these yens, but being pretty cautious. If we extend this guy out here, we've got kind of this widening, this interestingly kind of widening channel that the Aussie dollar's been, or the Aussie yen kind of been pushing up in. If we look at that, it's kind of a nice little widening range here on this 4-hour chart. Very nice double top right there. Very nice resistance back here as well. This is going to be an interesting one to watch for sure. This will definitely be interesting to watch, and we'll kind of look for this breakout. We've got quite a cluster of pivots and things to trade towards down here. Remember, we're always looking for high probability targets, some invalidation points, and some good confirmation to get in. And so this Aussie yen, there's a pretty good example here. There's some invalidation point right there. Here's some confirmation right here, and here's our targets down here. So we've got big high probability targets down there. We've got some good confirmation. This invalidation, anything above this whole level right here is just get out, and don't sit in this stuff too long. But below here, I think we could definitely see some nice some nice activity. So I think yen strength is finally maybe on the way. Keep in mind, next week, yen pairs, we're going to have some big yen news on Monday. Monetary policy statement, interest rates, press conference. So be careful about being, short or long, anything yen, until let this news kind of pass, and then let's really start to kind of dive into some of that yen activity. So Aussie yen looks interesting. New Zealand yen is trying to get interesting. Euro yen is a little less interesting. I feel like Euro yen is we'll see how this thing plays out, but I do kind of like this area. I think this is a good little spot to watch. We've had this kind of ascending channel right here. I think we can get rid of that guy right there. Still interested in this big lower level here. So I'm going to keep an eye on the euro yen. We've been watching it this long. We might as well keep on watching it. It's given us some short term trades, and and this is a pretty clean trend line, pretty clean area to be looking for here. And depending on what this does, if it doesn't push too much higher, and we see kind of that, hold on here, we see kind of this type um, of pattern holding, then then euro yen is crazy interesting for for that big sell off there. So it's wedging nicely into there. If it kind of continues, and then we start to see that break, I'm super interested in euro yen towards some of those lower targets. So euro yen's got some good potential. New Zealand yen is one I think we've sort of been watching. Had such a nice clean breakout, and it just got so messy through here, and I still think there's good possibilities for some for some bigger lower targets. That's a big target. That's a big target. But it just needs a little bit of additional patience. So that kind of stuff on New Zealand yen looks pretty good. So we kind of I've got my chart alarm ready and to rock and roll here again. So this kind of stuff, which has been happening like crazy on the New Zealand yen, will eventually lead to this kind of stuff. So yeah, yeah, these yen pairs they're interesting, but they are requiring a ton of patience and a lot of waiting. So we'll keep on waiting and we'll stay patient, but the potential is still very, very much there, and I think we're going to have some very good trades. So let's keep our eye on that. Let's make sure we're watching all these patterns that are kind of forming in here, and let's be ready. Let's be ready to take action when the moment is right. So New Zealand yen looks good. Aussie yen looks good. Euro yen definitely has some great potential. Dollar yen, I don't really know what I don't know how much I want to do with this dollar yen at the moment. I don't really trade dollar yen very much for these kinds of reasons right here because it never goes anywhere. But there's that. There's some moves for sure, but it just never really goes anywhere. This is taking us back an entire year basically of just total sideways movement. So kind of why I don't trade the dollar yen that much. And it's a decent channel. There's a few hundred pips to be had there, but I don't know. It's my lesser favorite of all the yen pairs for sure. So we've got if we had to kind of put that all into a little bit of a bow, I think we've got going into find a little cleaner of a chart here. We're not done yet, but if we had to kind of put it into a bow here, I'd say number one. So going into next week, I want to see like for USD. I think we're going to see some short to medium term strength. I think that's pretty safe to say. Definitely looking for strength as well. I want to see these yen pairs head down. Euro, we'll kind of see where these euro pairs go. I think there's a bigger focus on the dollar right now than some of those others. I just kind of feel like I definitely feel like we're ready for some Aussie and New Zealand, and I think we have some weakness that we will probably see on those guys going into next week. So those are kind of the initial thoughts that I'm going to be watching for right there. We've got that dollar index. Let's get some dollar strength. Short term. I don't think it's ready for a long term run yet, but I think we got a little bit of short term movement there, which is going to give us some opportunities to probably buy some big dips on euro dollar and so on. Watch for that yen strength. Aussie New Zealand weakness probably going to happen. What about like CAD pairs? Who's trading anything CAD? You guys, we had some CAD news this week. Remind me, this is on the New Zealand dollar chart, so I can come back to it. CAD pairs got super ugly this week. We had what was our news? It was interest rates, I think, right, this week. Yeah, so we had Canadian interest rate news, and here's what the darn CAD did. It just went straight up and straight down and straight up and straight down and then nowhere. Went right back to pre-release price. There's dollar CAD. Here is pound CAD. Choppy, choppy, choppy. Little bit of pound movement there. Euro CAD, definitely gave us that nice little 15-minute trade, and then choppy, choppy, choppy goes nowhere. So I would say that CAD pairs are kind of slowly making their way off my list right this moment. We talked about these resistance levels and kind of all of that, but Euro CAD looks ugly. Pound CAD looks, kind of ugly for the moment. It has made a bit of a breakout, but it's kind of ugly. Dollar CAD has definitely given us some really, really great moves. We've had some great trades on the dollar CAD, but where's it headed? That's a pretty solid double bottom right there. That's really good. Is that our turning point? I mean, it double bottomed basically right at this monthly pivot. So that's out of the way. So are we ready for upward movement on dollar CAD? We've got a missed monthly pivot up here and a couple of weekly pivots. I'm a little torn on what I see happening on this dollar CAD. If we do see a bit of dollar strength, I think there's some pretty good opportunities to maybe trade against this 123.50-60 low and see if we can get a run up into weekly pivot, monthly pivot area on dollar CAD here, kind of this little zone. So I'd like to, kind of keep that in mind. 126 to 126.50, 75 area. See if we can get a couple hundred pips there. But yeah, CAD pairs got ugly. They got ugly. They went all over the place and didn't really give us a whole lot, to do there. So kind of on the sidelines on CAD pairs for the moment. I like yen. I like dollar. And with the dollar pairs comes a lot of great opportunities on the euro, the Aussie, the pound, and so on. I don't think we talked about the pound dollar yet, did we? So pound dollar, kind of a little short-term chart here. It's only a 1 hour chart, but we start breaking below these lows, and I am interested in pound dollar. So make sure I got a nice little chart alarm set right in that general area. I got a text message in the middle of the night from TradingView saying I forget what pair it was, but it just said breaking. I thought, which way is it breaking? Remember to put that higher lower situation there. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? What's your guys' questions, comments? Oh yeah, hey Jim, nice to see you. Aussie CAD, you're long Aussie CAD. Okay, I like that. I think there's some good potential there. And Gerhard, sorry, I was going to go to your pound Aussie chart. So Aussie CAD has kind of, I've definitely been watching it, but I've kind of jumped off the Aussie CAD bandwagon for a little bit because, again, it got kind of choppy. It bounced around this area here, and I thought, we'll see what this thing does. Overall, though, Jim, I think the Aussie CAD is a great direction long if we're just kind of, speaking about the charts. Oops, hold on here. Kind of charts and kind of this whole situation. We've got these areas, these levels. It got a little bit messy, but it overall, I mean, there's kind of that area. So I've definitely been watching the Aussie CAD for, for this daily channel here. It's a little bit of a choppy, kind of ugly daily channel, but it's a pretty good channel. And it's held in there pretty nicely. We broke out, had a pretty crazy retest here, and then it's making its way back up in a major way. So it's breaking out of, this channel takes us all the way back to, May or so of last year. So bounce, 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 break out, and it's breaking out pretty nicely. So yeah, so I like that. I like that overall longer term direction. One thing that the Aussie CAD reacts to very well is all of these kind of missed levels and targets and all this stuff. And we still do have a weekly pivot, which is a big deal for a pair like the Aussie CAD. We got that weekly pivot down there. And then we had a couple of, big deal levels down here, some important levels that, we've talked about before, kind of lurking down there. But we had some breakouts and some big pullbacks and left a few little speckles of missed levels in the wake. But for the most part, not enough to to really want to fight that trend. So yeah, so good, Jim. I like that. I like that Aussie CAD movement. I think that looks good and good. And then Gerhard, pound Aussie bear. Let's see what we got. Pound Aussie. I haven't been following this one super closely, but let's see. Yeah, we got some good stuff there. Big failure at this. We poked through that just a little bit, but definitely could not hold. Big resistance right around that area, 177, 75, all the way up. I mean, this thing, interestingly, I kind of keep a healthy distance from pound pairs, but that thing hit 180 on the just to the pip. I mean, look at that high. That is 180 on the money, and then it came crashing down to, what's that low? One's grief. These things are just big movers. Let's see. So that was basically a month and change ago. So December 8th, we hit 180, drops 1,000 pips into 170. There you go. So yeah, big move there on pound Aussie. So very nice little movement. It's got some good levels. Make no mistake about that. Pound Aussie. I'm watching. I'm definitely watching this little. Now. I'm watching this little zone right here. That's the spot to look for. Here we are sitting at 173.30, 17200. The tricky thing will be to find a good entry here, but that's a great target. So that is a great target right there for anybody trading pound Aussie. But sorry guys, just sneezing over here. But finding a clean entry, remember high probability target, check. Invalidation point, maybe above these highs, maybe up here we're headed high again. But where's that entry? Where's confirmation? That's going to be the tricky thing. But that's a great target to aim for. So look for 17200. Just make sure there's some semblance of confirmation and a level to work with before getting down there. Okay, okie dokie. Yeah, pound Aussie. Any other pairs you guys want to look at? Good one on that one, Jim, and definitely Gerhard. Good stuff, you guys. Anybody else loving anything? Mel, you mentioned the Aussie yen. We definitely talked about that one. That's a goodie. Any other ones you guys are curious about? Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for. Let's go back to, I think we had on the New Zealand dollar chart, right? Next week is going to be um, some short-term dollar strength. I feel really good about that. The charts are kind of screaming that. Some yen strength. If that can continue on, then I'm less confident about that. But it looks like it's getting started, and that we can see that kind of stuff start to happen. Aussie and New Zealand weakness. I like that. I think there's some good possibility there. I like the Aussie CAD. I like the Aussie CAD long. I think that's a good one. But I think Aussie yen short, Aussie dollar short. Those look like really good trades. Um, and New Zealand dollar, New Zealand yen shorts look great. So I think there's some good possibilities and opportunities there. Okay, okie dokie. Who's trading? Now I did a pretty big update this week on. Let's spend 5 minutes here and uh, cover some of the cryptos here. I spent a couple minutes talking about these guys, and I said, Bitcoin. Anyone buy into Bitcoin? I definitely bought some Bitcoin, some Ripple, some Ethereum this week. Remember, guys, we're currency traders here, and there's some definite currency stuff to be watching for on these guys. So nice, easy little buy and holds here. I bought into some Bitcoin at. I talked about 8,300 to 9,000. It hit 9,000 right on the money, bounced up to 12,000. So I grabbed some good Bitcoin in there. That was a nice little trade, and I'm still holding on to that one. That's just a buy and hold. It's not a typical, we're not buying contracts on it, but just a little buy and hold on this Bitcoin. May take some profit because on some of these cryptos, we're starting to develop some downtrends, and I think the downtrends could have some legs. So watch this kind of stuff. Anyone that's watching the cryptos, trading the cryptos, look at Bitcoin for another squeeze higher, another push into maybe 13, maybe 14, and then don't be surprised to see that puppy come back down again. We're developing some pretty interesting downtrends here. And I think we have, a minimum target down here, 7,300 is kind of what I'm looking for. And even this is a nice little important level right here, about 8,300. So that's why I'm kind of looking at that 73 to 83. But all my big levels are really down here. These are all the crazy levels that were left when Bitcoin went nuts. and that puts us between 35 and 4,800. So I'm not going to be surprised to see that get there. But I don't want anybody to miss out on some really good big opportunities here, and I think Bitcoin and some of these cryptos are going to give us some big opportunities. And so I'm going to have a little more information coming out about how you can easily get involved in the crypto market and kind of just it's more of a stock trade. It's more of a buy and hold and see where it goes. But it's all about finding the good levels to buy and hold. And Bitcoin has some great levels down here, but I think it's heading lower. Another big one here as well. This is kind of the big mama Bahama of them all. And I did a little video on this one last week as well, and said, or this week actually, and said buy between 650 and 750, and I've revised my level here, but 650 and 750. You can see this hit about 655, and hopped up to a basically doubled 655 to 1100. Pretty close to doubled its value right there. There's some great buy and hold opportunities for some really excellent gains. But if you know how to trade, which we all do in here, then cryptocurrencies are great. People say it's full of the cryptocurrencies are full of a bunch of people that don't know what's going on, and that is absolutely true. But we're not those people. We know how to trade. We know especially how to trade volatile markets. We're a special kind of trader here. Currency traders are very adapt to high volatility markets and big swings and big movements. Stock traders are getting just murdered. They're just buying cryptos wherever for no real apparent reason and having a heck of a time. But currency traders, I mean, it is a currency, and we are currency traders, and there are some really great technical levels to keep an eye on here. So by no means am I giving up my regular currency trading, but I'm absolutely adding cryptocurrency trading for sure. And I've been buying into a good bit of those this week, and so I know there's still a lot of people out there that think this is the .com bubble and burst and yada yada and all that stuff, and there will be some corrections, and there's going to be some volatility, and there's going to be some big movements, but anytime you see something that's had this much attention and it comes off its highs by 50%, you're doing yourself a disservice by not buying into it. So the cryptos are very technical. They work very well. Like I said, I'm going to have some information out. So those that want to just get lightly involved in some of the majors, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these other ones, that you'll be able to easily do it, because there's a great opportunity for some low amounts of money to just kind of let it sit and make some cash on it. So cryptocurrency trading goes very much hand in hand with our regular foreign currency trading. So let's keep an eye on these markets. And Ethereum's got another. This is a great level. This is a great one to look for. 675. Be ready for it. I'm blown away at how well the cryptos react to pivot points. They're just excellent. Here's my personal favorite. I bought a bunch in here on this guy, but I'm still looking for 60 cents. 60 cents. This is a great little cryptocurrency that is doing a lot in the regular markets these days. They're licensing their technology to a lot of banks and credit card processors and so on for faster, more efficient money transfers. So these guys are doing some really big stuff. So anyway, there's some really great opportunities here. I like Ripple. I think this is a great one to buy some bigger dips. 60 cents. Wait for that 60 cents. But we have a really nice trend line here, and we're probably going to get a breakout, which I'm in it. So I bought into this guy right about here. Missed that little initial bounce. Sometimes they hit those lows pretty quick. And it's up, it's up a bunch. It's up, 40% or so on how much where I bought in. But there's some excellent gains to be had here on these cryptos. So don't discount that. This basically, I've been trading foreign currencies for 15 years, and this is a very nice addition to the currency trading repertoire, if I may say so. It's kind of like adding another market to an already good, exciting, great moving market, and I love that. I love that a lot. I think there's definitely some. Um, I think there's definitely some good opportunities to be had here. So I'm not taking this, and I don't think anyone else here should take this as any kind of get rich, scheme. It's just here's a great moving market that we need to pay attention to and do some trading with. So I'll have some details about how to get involved there. It's not as complicated and crazy and difficult as many think. I have some videos posted shortly on that. And we'll take it from there. So, all right, questions, comments, guys. Any? Did I miss any details? Have I missed any currencies, both crypto or regular, that we need to discuss? I think we've got our game plan and our marching orders coming up. So I'm pretty darn ready for these kinds of movements to happen. What do you guys think? What do you think? Any questions, comments? Are we good? Are we good? Everyone good on that? All right. If so, let's be ready for some good trades next week. I'm particularly excited about a little bit of dollar movement. It's been so choppy this week that I think the dollar is ready for a little bit of a move next week. So I'm excited about that. So we'll be there. We'll be ready. We'll be back and ready to jump in on these markets on Monday morning. So I'll be here Monday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time. We'll kind of get our weekly game plan. We'll see how the markets open up kind of Sunday night, Monday morning. That's always kind of a good time to let the wiggles get out, and then we can really start to attack that weekly kind of longer term picture for the next several days and so on. So we'll take it from there. Thanks, everybody. Happy weekend to you all. Good trading to everybody, and we've got some great setups in the works. So let's be ready for them. Thanks, guys. Take care. We'll see you all on Monday. Have a wonderful weekend. See you guys.